Hey y'all, I am going to do a quick lesson on conversions. This is for you to use in chapter 10 where we are doing conversions so that we can find volume and then do things like finding the weight of the water like we are doing in lesson 10-6. But I'm just going to do a quick review of basic conversions, or for some of you this may be new, but bear with me and let me know if you have questions. So for each of these problems, the top line tells you what we're given and what we're asked for, so what we need to convert to. In this case, we're given feet and we're asked to convert to inches. So I want to know how many inches 5 feet is equal to. Now, because you all know that there are 12 inches in a foot, you could do this in your head simply by saying 12 times 5. But a lot of the conversions that we're going to do are much more complicated and definitely not numbers that we can do in our heads. So I want you to see the simple approach called the factor label method for doing conversions. For those of you who've had chemistry, you used this in your Apologia chemistry book. For those of you who have yet to have chemistry, consider it great practice for next year. All right, so we are always going to start with what we're given, and we're always going to put it over 1 because every number can be made into a fraction over 1. And the 9th graders will remember that I talked about how important in chemistry it is that everything is labeled with the appropriate units. This is why. Do you remember me talking about stoichiometry and how you would be converting between different units? This is exactly what we're doing here, not stoichiometry, but converting between units, and you must label each number with a unit in order to ensure that you come out with the right thing in the end. So I'm going to try turning the camera sideways for this to see if, yeah, that helps. And we're going to start with our 5 feet that we're given, and we're going to put it over 1. You can see that I have then left space for something in the middle. That's going to be our equivalence or our relationship. We're going to put a relationship here that allows us to convert. And then the last thing is what we're changing to. So I need to go from feet to inches. That means in the middle, I'm going to need a relationship between feet and inches. The relationship is always going to either be something that you know from prior knowledge, like how many inches are in a foot or how many feet are in a yard, or it's going to be a relationship that's given to you in the problem. So the other thing you need to know about the relationship is that it needs to allow you to cancel units. So we know that it's going to include feet because we're coming from feet, and we know it's going to include inches because we're going to inches. Well, we need to have inches on top so that we end with inches, and we need to have feet on the bottom so that it cancels with feet on the top at the beginning of the problem. So what we're going to do is write a relationship as inches on top, feet on the bottom. And we can do this with decimal numbers, but I prefer to keep the numbers as whole numbers whenever possible. So what I tell my skipper kids is you always do how many of the smaller thing are in the larger thing. So in this case, we know there are 12 of the smaller thing and 1 of the larger thing, or 12 inches in a foot. So this is now our relationship, our conversion relationship. We are given this piece of information in order to get that answer. So we have 5 feet equals how many inches? We're going to multiply it by that relationship. As you see, because feet is on top and feet is on the bottom, we're going to cancel it, cross-canceling. And now we're left with a multiplication problem because there's nothing on the bottom to divide by. So we're going to say 5 times 12, and we're going to write the answer right here. So 12 times 5 is 60, and that's our final answer. 5 feet equals 60 inches. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We're just going to repeat this over and over 4 times so that you can get used to it. Now we're going to go from feet to yards. Remember that whatever we're changing from needs to be the first part of our equation, and we're always going to put it over a 1 to make a fraction. Now, since we're going from feet to yards, our relationship is going to be made up of feet and yards. But whatever is over here on the top needs to be on the bottom of this second fraction so that it will cancel. And whatever we need to end with needs to be on top so that it's what we're left with as our units. So what's our relationship between feet and yards? How many of the smaller thing are in the larger thing? There are 3 feet in a yard. So that's how we decide what order those numbers go in there. And we start canceling. We see that the feet on top cancels with the feet on bottom. And this time, we're not doing a multiplication problem. We're doing a division problem because we're going to need to say 12 times 1/3, which is multiplication. But really, we're going to end up saying 12 divided by 3, which is 4. So 12 feet is equal to 4 yards. Simple conversion. Okay, let's try the next one. The next one is going from yards to feet. So we're going in the opposite direction of what we just did. We start with 2 yards. We're going to put it over 1. We need our conversion relationship in the second fraction. And that's going to need to be made up of, I didn't actually finish the problem over here. Hold on just a second. Equals blank feet, because feet is what we need to end with. So our conversion relationship needs to be made up of yards and feet. So we need yards on the bottom. Remember, that's decided because it has to cancel with what was on the top over here. And we need feet on the top so that it's the units that we end with. So our yards cancel. And I shouldn't have done that yet because we hadn't done our relationship. Let's think about our relationship. How many of the smaller thing are in the larger thing? We have 3 feet in a yard. So 2 times 3, because there's nothing on the bottom to divide by. 2 times 3 is 6. So our 2 yards equals 6 feet. All right, now in the book, in the geometry book, the problems that you'll be doing, you probably won't have to figure out this part of the problem as often. They will give you the relationship that goes here, but you will have to figure out which part of it goes on the top and which part of it goes on the bottom. Remember, what goes on the bottom needs to cancel with what's on top at the beginning of the equation, and what's on top right here needs to be what you end with so that your units are correct. All right, the last one is, I don't know if I can get the camera so that you can see that. Bear with me. It's not going to be perfect. We'll have to look at it a little bit at a time. This one is going to be a 2-step problem. It doesn't have to be. You could do this in your head, but I want to use it as an example of a 2-step problem. We're going from inches to yards. Well, we can do that conversion, but we also more easily know how many inches are in a foot and how many feet are in a yard. So I want to use this rather simple example to show you how to do a 2-step conversion, especially if you were needing to do it with much more difficult conversions. So we are going to start with our 36 inches that we are converting from, and of course that has to go over a 1, and then we're going to jump to inches and feet. Then we're going to jump to feet and yards to get our answer in yards. Now, like I said, this could have been a 1-step conversion, but I want to show you how to do 2 steps. So we know how many inches are in a foot, and we know that inches needs to be on the bottom so that it cancels, and feet so that we keep moving towards the bigger yards. So we're feet on top so that we keep moving with it. So we're going to say 12 inches are in a foot. Now let's move to the next part. To get us closer to yards, or get us converted to yards, this time we're going to say how many feet are in a yard. There are 3 feet in one bigger yard. Now we can start our canceling. Cancel our inches on top with inches on the bottom. Now we're going to cancel our feet on top with feet on the bottom. We are left with yards, and you can see that's what our answer is going to be in. Now I'm going to turn the phone and just let you see the math of it. So now we're going to say, sorry, that's not working perfectly. We're going to say 36 divided by 12 divided by 3. So 36 divided by 12 is going to be 3. 3 divided by 3 is going to be 1. So we know that 36 inches equals 1 yard, and that's something that you should know anyway, but I've shown it to you mathematically, and these are the types of conversions that you will be using in your homework. So come back to this video if you need to.